Gandhi once said, "Good government is no substitute for self-government." You can have the greatest government or concept or theory of government that ever was. And if you don't have self-governed people that are a part of it, you really don't have much. I believe that there is a government over the nations of the world, our nation in particular. We're celebrating this nation over the weekend. There is a government that governs nations. There is government that governs all organizations or gatherings of individuals. We have our own government right here at Unity on the Bay. More important than all of those forms of government, however, is the recognition that you and I have a government inside of us. We are self-governing critters, we are. We may or may not be aware of this governance, but it's made up of the things that we hold dear, the things that we aspire toward, our ideals, and it's always operating within us whether we are recognizing its presence or not. There's always a governor. There's always a judge. There's always, if you will, sort of a tape running in the background of your existence that is giving you commentary on everybody and everything that's a part of your world. Have you noticed this? It behooves us to become aware of this voice so that we can decide whether or not the government that's running us from the inside is really based on the ideas and the ideals that we want to see brought forth into the world. No nation, my friends, is any greater than the individuals that make up the nation. So my call to you this holiday weekend is to become aware of the governance within you. Become aware of the running commentary that's going on inside of you. Spend a little time with that. Ask yourself the question, what am I putting in to the government of which I am a part? Both my internal government and externally in terms of your activities and actions in the world. I share with you this morning some words that are not uncommon, and you're invited to join me if you so choose as I speak them. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Love those words, and especially the concluding statement, liberty and justice for all. How many of you believe in a government that promotes liberty and justice for all? Amen, my brothers and sisters. And how many of you believe that the government inside of you right now in this moment is promoting those same concepts, liberty and justice for all? Before you respond, let me share with you a personal experience. And this experience happens to me several times a week. And this is like true confessions for me, I don't mind saying. I like to walk in the Margaret Pace Park just down the street here a little ways. And as I walk in the mornings, and these are some of the most peaceful, contemplative, meditative moments of my day, in the morning as the sun is rising, I'm walking along, and even in this state of what I would like to think of as something of an illumined consciousness, if you will, in all humility, I become aware of this tape that's running in my mind, this voice in the back of my mind that will occasionally rise up and offer its judgment, its commentary about people who are also walking in the park, or some of them laying or sleeping that haven't yet awakened. It will offer its commentary to me about those individuals. It will arrive at conclusions regarding those individuals whom I have no idea of actually who they are. And yet, this commentary runs itself in my mind. From the most distinguished-looking businessman that's out there getting his morning exercise, to the individual who probably didn't have a home and may have had an extremely rough night, I notice that this commentary goes on. And I no longer necessarily try to negate that commentary. What I do is try to become aware of it and realize that I am free to make a different choice. I am free to play a different tape regarding the individuals that I encounter. Again, people that I don't even know, and yet I am drawing conclusions and making assumptions about these people. Am I alone, or do some of you relate to this? There is a commentary. It's based on our past. It's based on the judgments that have conditioned our own lives, judgments that we often lay on ourselves as well as the cast of characters outside of us. So I first encourage you, along with myself, to become aware of that and then recognize that those judgments quite often are not based on anything of any validity. They are based primarily on my past experience with other individuals that I am now casting on to the present moment, that is keeping me from being able to behold what? The divine perfection, the divine reality, the divine identity of each and every person that is a part of my life experience. Now, Jesus, our great way shower, teacher, elder brother, he had a few words to say on the subject, did he not, of judgment? You remember what they were in the Sermon on the Mount in the book of Matthew. This is from the 7th chapter in the 1st and 2nd verses. He said this, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get." And what that's saying is that every time this commentary is offering judgment, especially in the case of harsh or condemnatory judgment, we must remember what I call the spiritual boomerang. When you send something out, it inevitably and always comes back to rest on your own shoulders. When you cast a judgment, especially a harsh or a condemnatory judgment on anyone or anything out here in your experience, rest assured that's coming back to you, my friends, which is an invitation for us to become more aware of this critical judge that's going on in the government of our own consciousness, that's casting these opinions out into the world. It's coming back on us. How do I know that? Because in spite of the level of appearances that we appear to be individual and separated men and women sitting in this room right now, the ultimate spiritual reality is that we are one. There is only one of us in this room at this time. There is only one of us on this planet at this time. We are a collective whole energy, individualized atoms, cells, if you will, in a collective body of energy. Anything that we put out onto the collection as a whole, we are placing on ourselves. And we have the ability to free ourselves from that nasty habit when the judgments are negative, when the judgments are harsh, critical, or condemnatory. There are 3 different ways in which we like to extend judgments, and I share with you these 3 ways now. The first one is, and it's often the most unfortunate, if not painful, we judge ourselves. Can you relate? We judge ourselves, and sometimes it's ourselves that we are judging the most harshly. We judge ourselves according to standards, ideals, bars that we've established that may not be realistic for ourselves ever. And yet when we don't meet them, we condemn ourselves. And we live lives that are rooted in a sense of guilt and shame. I love the idea that in this community, we do not believe in guilt and shame. We do not believe any level or seeming deservedness of guilt or shame has ever done anybody any good at all. We don't believe in guilt. We don't believe in shame. What we believe in is God. What we believe in is the divine character, the ultimate and prevailing divine character of every single one of us. So this morning, if you have been beating yourself up, if you've been persecuting yourself in some way for something that you've done or something that you're a part of now, release it. It's not doing you any good at all. If you want to change your choice, if you want to change your behavior, be my guest. But I assure you that self-punishment has never done anyone any good at all. Now, the same habit that we like to inflict on ourselves, we oftentimes find ourselves inflicting on others. And most especially, my friends, people nearest and dearest to us can become targets of our ruthless criticism if we are not conscious, if we are not awake, and if we are not aware. There are people very close to us. There are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children whom we have also held to unrealistic standards, as if it was our role to hold them to any standards at all. My friends, our role in this life experience is to master the art of becoming unconditional lovers. If there's a member of your family this morning that you've been holding up on a cross for persecution's sake, I encourage you to let them down, not so much as an act of benevolence on your part toward them, but to save yourself. Because your judgment, your criticism, and your desired punishment is coming back to rest on your own shoulders. These are not acts of benevolence. They are acts of self-awareness. They are acts of self-compassion. Let the family members down off the cross today. Will you join me in doing that? And then there's another interesting group of individuals that also often becomes the target of our criticism and our judgment, and that is the people that we find ourselves at work with. Have you noticed this? Our coworkers become excellent targets for our condemnatory judgments. The reality is that, and you may have noticed, that even if you move from employer to employer, these individuals travel with you under different disguises, but they're still the difficult coworkers. And every place seems to have one, except Unity on the Bay. I've got to tell you, we really have a wonderful group of people here, and I'm grateful for that, and grateful for the reflection we see in each other's eyes. But typically, most workplaces are wonderful resting spots for people that we find it easy to judge. Pull back the judgment. Number one, who made you the judge in the first place? Get in touch with that tape that's running in your mind all the time, that's laying condemnation, guilt, and blame out onto the world. Take responsibility and realize that you can make different choices. And finally, my friends, there is a harsh judgment that we're all aware of. It is the judgment of religions. It is the judgment of races. It is the judgment of institutions. It is the judgment of governments. And I want to remind you that every time we are casting the finger of judgment out into the world, there are always, as I've told you many times, three fingers pointing back. The call that is, I believe, in our midst right now, in our country, in our world, is to recognize whether we are a promoter of condemnation or whether we are a promoter of understanding, a promoter of mutual respect and love and appreciation. I want you to remember it this morning. This is very important, I believe, in our country right now. Our responsibility is to stand up with strength and power for what we believe is right, without putting other individuals down. You hear me on this? Stand up strong. Stand up with power. Stand up for what you believe in. You can do that more effectively if you are not putting other people down in the process. When you bring other people down, you are operating on their scale, on their desired scale for your own behavior. Your strength becomes magnified, my friends, when you stand in the certainty without guilt, blame, or punishment on anyone out here, on the certainty of what you believe, of what you know, of what is built into the integrity of your own spirit and soul. That's how you act powerfully, and that's how we form a nation made of the same substance, by standing strong without putting others down in the process. We stand up, put no one down. I'm telling you, this is what we need. This is the formula. This is the recipe that's being called forth from every human being right now, I believe, on the planet, especially those of us that are seeking a higher way, a path of understanding and enlightenment. I share a story with you this morning. I call it the story of the monks and the Messiah. Many years ago, there was a band of monks that were operating in a monastery deep in the woods. And they were each and every one of them over the age of 70 in their age. And they were concerned because for many years, people had stopped coming to the monastery. So the walls were empty and the shelter was decrepit, and it was the belief of the monks that probably they would be the last generation to preserve this great place that had provided spiritual solace to so many. They caught wind of the understanding that the rabbi was about to arrive in town at the synagogue down the street. And so they decided that one of them should be appointed to go meet with the rabbi and discuss their challenge and the fact that they looked like they were on their last leg. And one of the monks went to talk with the rabbi and started to explain the situation. And the rabbi said, well, I wish that I could help you, but the reality is we have the same problem here in the synagogue. We used to have throngs of people here. Now hardly anyone shows up, and I'm also concerned about the future of this ministry and my work. So without being able to offer an answer, as the monk was leaving, the rabbi came over and put his arm around the shoulder. He said, I might not have the solution to your problem, but I can tell you one thing. One of the monks in your monastery is in fact the Messiah. Well, the monk left the rabbi's presence, went back, and of course right away the other monks were saying, what did the rabbi say? What did he say? Did he offer a solution? He said, well, I'm sorry, he didn't really give us a solution, but he said something rather cryptic as I was walking out the door. He said that one of us, right here in this circle, was the Messiah. Actually the Messiah. Well, in the days and the weeks and the months that went on after that, you can only imagine these monks were gathering together and starting to sort of look at their evaluations of each other to determine which one might actually be the Messiah, if in fact any of them were, and coming down on the ones that they thought were least likely and sort of pumping up the ones they thought were better candidates to be the Messiah of all humanity, as it were. And a very interesting thing began to happen. The monks, not knowing which one of them actually might be the Messiah, began to treat each other with unparalleled levels of mutual respect, admiration, appreciation, and love, just on the chance that they might be talking with the Messiah here. They wanted to make sure they were clean. Eventually, passers-by in the woods began to pick up a sort of energy about this monastery. They just knew that something attractive was going on there. And so they began to mingle with the monks. And the monks, in this energy of mutual respect, love, and admiration, began to form an almost energetic force field that drew more and more people. And soon the monastery was beginning to rise up on its feet again and see a successful future down the road. Now you might imagine the real idea of this is the understanding that they changed the way they saw each other, my friends. They changed the way they saw each other. There's a word that we like to use here on Wednesday nights. It's this: namaste. And what namaste means is that when you look into the eyes of another individual, you don't see the commentary of the judge that's running in your brain. You see the spiritual reality of that person. And you realize that the more consistently and completely you are able to look beyond your own judgments to the real truth of who that individual is, you begin to see yourself as that individual. You begin to see everyone in your life as your own Savior, as your own Messiah. And as that reflection comes back to you, you begin to see clearly that you yourself are your own Savior. You yourself are your own Messiah. All that was required was to cease the ongoing commentary, get up and above your own judgments of the people that occupy space in your world, in your community, at your place of employment, in your family, and in your nation. The people of Denmark have done a wonderful job of giving us instruction and guidance in this arena, and they have put together a video that I want to share with you right now this morning. Get out your hanky.
It's easy to put people in boxes. There's us, and there's them. The high earners, and those just getting by. Those we trust, and those we try to avoid. There's the new Danes, and those who've always been here. The people from the countryside, and those who've never seen a cow. The religious, and the self-confident. There are those we share something with, and those we don't share anything with.
Velkommen. Jeg kommer til at stille jer nogle spørgsmål i dag. Nogle af dem kan godt være lidt personlige, men jeg håber, I vil svare ærligt på dem. Hvem herinde i rummet var klassens klovn?
are step-parents.
And then suddenly, there's us. We who believe in life after death. We who've seen UFOs. And all of us who love to dance. We who've been bullied. And we who've bullied others. And then there's us, the lucky ones who've had sex this past week. We who are broken-hearted. We who are madly in love. We who feel lonely. We who are bisexual. And we who acknowledge the courage of others. We who have found the meaning of life. And we who have saved lives. And then there's all of us who just love Denmark. So maybe there's more that brings us together than we think. TV2 Denmark. All that we share.
We at Unity on the Bay do love Denmark, do we not? We also love the United States of America. And what is the United States of America, my friends? It's each and every one of us. What will we decide as we celebrate this holiday experience together in terms of the choices that we make, looking out into our world? Will we decide to see that which we do not share with others, that which we are opposed to? Will we add to the fire of divisiveness that is in our midst? Or will we lay down our judgments and begin to stand up for that which we know in our hearts is right and true and beautiful? Stand up without putting others down. I have taken the liberty of closing this experience this morning with a rewrite of the Pledge of Allegiance. So please excuse me and please humor me. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to unconditional love, mutual respect, and the freedom they ensure. Through the united state of my own consciousness, in the governing of my own life, one individual under God's guidance, unified with the purpose of demonstrating liberty and justice for all. That is the foundation of our country, and that is the foundation of your life as a spiritual being. Happy Independence Day.